Right, so winter is sadly arriving, and with that, it means that fishing has gone a little bit more difficult. But still, we've come out today to the wonderful Hampton Springs on not a too bad day, not a freezing day, but this typical sort of day that you're going to go out and fish in the winter. You know what I mean? But with no wind, we've got very lucky today with no wind whatsoever. And I want to go through just the way I've been thinking about my fishing recently, or very much in the last few years, because I've been messing about with lots of carp fishing in the summer and lots of silverfish fishing in the winter. The venues that I'm going to fish for silverfish are obviously commercials that hold billions and billions and billions of carp and F1s. And it always amazes me how many carp and F1s were hooking during these silverfish matches when I'm feeding in a way that I'd never ever think of feeding for F1s and carp. It'd be, I'd assume it was far too aggressive, far too positive, just not right. But that's all in my head, because in actual reality it can be ridiculous, and making things happen, which is what today's going to be all about. Just how I break my sessions down. I mean, starting negative and making things really positive later on, or as quickly as possible. What difference it can make, definitely. But before we go into that, I want to go a bit pluggy. Something I don't like doing too much on the videos, but I wanted a little chat about this, because to be honest, I'm sick of getting 3 billion questions about either pole elastics or pole choices. That is, without doubt, my inbox is flooded with them week after week after week. And I want to talk about the poles I use, because I am very, very, very lucky to be in the position that I'm in, that Matrix are regularly sending me different poles to try out, to see how good they are, to see if they break, to see whatever else, to test them as much as I possibly can before they go on market. And even during, once they're out, I need to be there to make sure things are improved, to make sure no faults are occurring. And because of that, I've probably learned a lot more about poles in the last few years than ever before. I mean, I'm very, very lucky. We've just brought out new range. How long's it been out now? Probably 18 months the new range has been out-ish. Yeah, I'm having that, probably 18 months. Before that, I was able to play with lots of samples and all sorts of things. So I've learned lots about how different poles behave. And it's not always the case of the best pole on the market is good for everything. I mean, of course they are. Of course, they're never going to be poor at anything. But for certain situations, different poles are better. I mean, nothing to do with price brackets whatsoever. Price brackets completely disregarded. Forget about that. That's all down to the budget you've got to spend. But how poles work in different situations can definitely improve your fishing. I mean, I'd always thought the lighter, stiffest pole is the best for everything. It's actually not. I mean, in many situations, like maybe carp shallow slapping, silverfish fishing, poking little tiny rigs into far banks for F1s, different poles can be better for that style of fishing. Depending on what you do the most, you actually need to think about how the pole actually is. Forget about the budget almost, and work out what's best for the type of fishing you do. I mean, fishing's changed so much in the UK of late that it's all about short, shallow, catching loads of fish. The strength, robustness of a pole is far more important than being able to hold a little diddy rig at 17.5 metres. It's not that type of world that we live in anymore when it comes to fishing. I want a pole that lasts. So today I'm going to use something different. I'm going to use the MTX3, which is something I actually use for all my silverfish fishing, or when it's a bit nasty. I mean, I'm lucky that I do get to play with these poles. Like I say, I've got quite a few in my garage at home, and I can pick whatever pole I need for the situation. So when it comes to this time of year, when I'm likely to throw it about, the weather's going to be really poor, the old wind pops up and spoils the fun most occasions during this time of year, I can get an MTX3 out, I can use it to the absolute limit, I can kick its bottom, but it's still better for what I want to do, because it's silverfish. I want something that's flexible. I want to be able to chuck it about, move it all over my peg. It might be dobbing, I might be dragging fish out of reeds. I want a pole that's good for everything. So an MTX3, as long as I'm not fishing it 16 metres all the time, it's what I'm going to go through every single time. So a little bit pluggy, as I say. I apologise for that. On to the fishing straight away. But yeah, it's well worth having a little look at what poles you're selling, say particularly this one, which that's actually makes his best selling pole, the MTX3, and I can definitely see why. It's worth just paying a little bit more attention to what you're using and say, getting the most out of it. But enough of that, on to some fishing. So, good bit, onto the fishing. And as I say, I want to be about being positive, because it definitely does make a difference. It's rock bottom, borderline now, it is flipping freezing. We're on 4.5 degrees when I've rocked up this morning. The waters are about 6. So well on the way down to being complete shutdown. But it's that, having bait going in, making something happen, the benefits that it has as opposed to being ultra negative, tapping 2 pellets and sitting and waiting, it's massive. Don't get me wrong, it could blow your peg to pieces in the wrong situation. But a venue like today where we're at, where I've got silvers that will definitely be first on the bait, they'll make something happen in turn. F1s will come. So it's about building that peg up. So really, really simple, just for demonstrative purposes sort of thing. I'm having one line that I'm being really positive on. Yeah. What I can't do, however, is start on that. I mean, there's no way I can start feeding, blasting 30 casters at that all the time, trying to make something happen and expect an instant response. Yeah, this time of year, it ain't gonna happen. Simple as it ain't gonna happen. So it needs building. So just all I'm gonna do is, I've got my line, I've got it plumbed up, and before I even fish it, I'm just regularly feeding 10 or 15 casters on that line. I mean, massively, maybe more, maybe 20 casters on that line. Really, really positive, aggressive, making something go on. Yeah, I'm not tapping 10 maggots in, feeding through a pot, keeping things really, really negative, which of course definitely has a time and a place. I'm not saying this works every venue, but if you've got that mix of silvers, F1s, carp, all sorts, lots of little mouths to feed, even in this type of weather, making something happen by bait going through the water is definitely the way. However, as I said, we can't start on it, so I'm gonna have a quick start, really, non-instructional this one, this is just for me to catch a fish. I'd still start the session dobbing. Yeah, I've got two ways of starting a session at this time of year. It's either tapping in minimal bait in an area and just sitting and waiting, setting a trap, or of course, sadly, the dobbing starts this time of year, so dead simple. Got one of our 0.2 floats on, bulk underneath my float, 3 number 10s underneath it. Sorry, 3 number 12s underneath it after the bulk. Really, really simple when it comes to dobbing, but it's not about that, this one. It's about the feeding element. So if I whack some glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to try and keep it so every minute, maybe even less, I'm feeding that line. I've got bait going through the water, which looks absolutely terrifying for this time of year for that sort of bait. But if it was a silvers match, I'd do exactly the same thing. I'd have a line where I was aggressive. I'd have a line where lots of particles are falling through that water regular, to grab their attention, to get as many different species, as many fish in the peg as possible, just to make something happen. So I'm going straight in. I haven't had a go on this. I might need to take a shot off that float. I didn't even test that, which is a bit of an error. I'm going to whiz that in and take a shot of it, because I didn't even think about that. Pop that up a little bit so you lot can see what we're doing. Should have tested that really before we went in. Hey ho. Yeah. But I want to be aggressive. I want the noise, every little element I can possibly have. What do you reckon? Take a 10 off? Take a 10 off. Let's go big. Go big with that one. Whiz it in. And I should have really fed before I went on that, but I'm just going to give it another 30 seconds. So what I will definitely say is that you need to do, while being aggressive, is you need to try it as quickly as possible. Not immediately, but you need to try it. Lovely, that's what we wanted. Is I want to try it quickly to see if the fish are there. I mean, as long as there's something, and I don't mean a peg full of F1s, peg full of proper fish. I mean anything. I just want to know if the mouths are there clearing me bait out. Because the quicker there are, the more aggressive I can be. If I know that that bait's getting eaten and there's lots of fish present in the peg, then I'm more than happy. But in the meantime, I can pick off me easy ones dobbing. I mean, this is going to work regardless of the conditions, but you only have that small window for dobbing. I mean, we spoke about this many times in the past. And dobbing's brilliant when nothing's feeding. However, once fish start to feed and respond to loose feed, there is no way of competing with that. Yeah, dobbing's never going to compete because you're not controlling a peg when you're dobbing. You're just literally dangling a carrot in front of a donkey. So we had loads of casters going in, but grouped nicely. You know, I'm not going too far. I'm not going 14 metres. I'm just going 13. For me, with casters, with our heavy catapult, the black one, that is the sexy ultimate grouping distance for me. That's where I want to be. So feeding that, getting away from myself. I mean, I think the further away you can get away from yourself within reason, the more confidence them fish are going to have. I mean, it's not like the summer where they're going to rock up at 5 metres and want to chuck late on. The further I go, the quicker the fish are going to be on my bait, the more confidence they're going to have. Because the clarity is quite simply ridiculous at the minute. So I'm not going to nick many on this. I'm going to catch 1 or 2 more on this. Just see. So I've got that lovely lily bed that should hold a few fish. But lilies are weird for me when it comes to dobbing. tend to find that they have very little windows and you've got to move about a lot. You often don't catch as many. I'd rather have a big bush like that sort of thing, but I'm keeping that for my caster line. I'd rather have a bush or something, a far bank sort of feature to dob to, rather than lilies. I find that the fish back off really, really quick on lilies for some reason. Just go a little bit further back into them where they must feel a little bit safer. Get a bite then. I'm going to catch another one on this yet. Hopefully a carp. It'd be nice to catch a carp. I ain't caught a carp for a week or two. Nice pretty winter carp. But yeah, so there's still signs on this, so I just want to catch one more. And say in real time as well. I want to try things that quick. I want to drop on me bait that quick just to see if the roach are there, if the little perch are there, skim, whatever. I mean, lakes with hiding, they could be right on it really, really quickly. So I'll choose casters. That was horrendously fed. I'll choose casters as well over maggots because of the noise and the accuracy they're going to make. Yeah, weird bait to think of for F1s during the winter, but say it's that silverfish mentality at these silver matches that I'm fishing. How do you miss that? Useless. Yeah, this silverfish mentality that I'm being aggressive at these silverfish venues, and the amount of fish that we're hooking that don't flip and count is ridiculous. Like, I'd be happier catching the amounts that I'm catching them than when I'm fishing for F1s on their own with pellets and tapping and being really, really negative. So for me, definitely, as I say, a time and a place when I've not got to make sure I don't mess my peg up. I'd rather take the gamble these days and be aggressive, make something happen, get catty out, and in turn, hopefully catch a lot more fish. So anyway, one more. I'm missing some serious bites here. I think that's just due to them being little roach. Lots of roach in this one. So you don't get bites like that off proper fish on bread at this time of year. See, they're very pecky. See how it's just tapping, tapping, tapping their little diddy roach there. But that should get the attention of a carp, hopefully. Come on, one more. And then have a quick go on them casters. Ah, they're roach. It must be. Quick on them casters and see what's going on. I'm a bit sad that we're dobbing already. So middle of November, dobbing's like, it's committing, isn't it? You're like, yeah, it's winter. Yeah, eventually we got one, different bite, proper fish. Lovely. And I could carry on doing this, don't get me wrong, I probably wouldn't come off this because of how steady it is. But I want to see what's on my casters already, so I'm going to land this one. I'm going to feed my casters a couple of times with 2 lots of 20, and then we're going to go straight on it and see if we've got any response that quick. See if the fish are already there because of the noise and the bait going through the water. Oh, it's a big F1. He's going in the keep net for tomorrow, that one. He's a proper and I can't even pick him up. But lovely, lovely. I love the colour of them this time of year when they go all dark. But that is a daddy F1. You're going to give me for him, I had £5 in. Not a bad one. So, onto the casters really quickly and let's see what's here. Right, the good bit, catching some fishies. So as I say, before I go in, I've shipped back, I've whizzed that section off because we're only going 13 with this. And I'm in that area, my happy, sexy grouping area. So 13 metres is where, with our black elastic catapults there, what are they? The heavy ones, they're not the extra heavy, the heavy. They're literally all I use for everything and it keeps things absolutely bang on. 20 casters in, grouped beautifully. I mean, keeps everything nice. I get the odd one going back, I actually like them. I've got my main group and the odd little single one going back. That's where I'm going to fish, right on the back of my casters. We ain't going to go through rigs on this one. There is no need. I've just got a standard carbon stem float. 0.5 on this, probably a bit heavy. I thought it was going to be a bit deeper. I wish I'd have put a 0.4 on, but a 0.5 will do. And I'm going to put 2 little tiny maggots on. So all my gear is geared towards catching everything. So I've got 010 hook length on, I've got an 18 hook, I've got a solid elastic just for this one because I'm going to catch a lot more silvers. And I've got a fairly slow falling rig as well. You see, I'll flick that to the back of my bait. I'm not going to feed this cast, or not immediately. I'm going to let that go in. So I don't want to be in the main group of bait. Here we go. That's exactly the sort of thing I want. It's other fish there to begin with. I mean, catching them silvers, I don't know about you lot, but once my dobbin's dried up and there's not an option to catch F1s, all I want to do this time of year is get bites. And if it means catching a what? 3 ounce roach. We having that? Yeah. You can give me 3. I'm crap at little tiny fish. I'm useless at. So 3 ounce roach every single chuck. More than happy this time of year. All I want to do is be busy, get bites. That's all it's about. And it's ridiculous the amount of them you can catch to put £10 on your net. And when 30, 40 pounds often enough to win the match, I mean, catching them, I'm not going to say accidental, but catching them fish before any bonus positive fish arrive, happy days. I mean, it keeps me warm, keeps me getting bites. Couldn't ask for anything more. So this time I'm going to feed. As I say, my main feed area, I want to drop it just short of my float. Yeah, so I'm at the back of my bait all the time. Yeah, I don't want to be in the silly area where there's loads and loads of bait, because that's going to be lots of liners and less chance than picking my bait out. So just by being on the back edge of it, hopefully it stacks more rods in my favour. You wouldn't think that by fishing away from your feed. There's loads of fish there. So it just depends what them fish are, whether they're any big fish or whether I've filled me peg full of little fish, which it's what loose feeding does. I mean, it's often why we steer clear of it in the summer, is loose feeding too aggressively earlier on, because it does bring all the little fish into your peg. So this time of year, crack on. It's exactly what I want. I think one of my maggots has fell off. You feed again. So already after flipping 15 seconds of fishing it, a bit longer than that, a minute or so of fishing it, I can see that my peg can sustain. Yeah, what have we got? Yeah, proper fish. That quick. This might be something weird. My peg can sustain the amount of bait I'm putting in. Just by the indications, by what I'm seeing, by the fish I'm catching, it's so instantly clear that you can feed. Yeah, if I'd gone over there and it had sat and not moved for 5 minutes and then I'd have caught a little perch, then I'd be worried. Then I'd cut right back on my feed. I'd still want to feed constantly, but I'd cut right back on the amount that's going in. I'd feed like 5 to 6 casters, little tiny pincher casters, constantly. Whereas now that I'm seeing lots and lots of indications in my peg, so I wasn't expecting that. That's an F1 already. I definitely wasn't expecting to catch one over me feed that quick. He's all right. He's just wrapped around him. Yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. A beautiful dark. I like how they go all like dark and gorgeous this time of year because it's clear. But they're what we're after. So still being aggressive. And I may hook 20 of them, as well as my silverfish, and all of a sudden I've got 50, 60 pound before you know it. Absolutely, probably the bestest, most fun way of fishing. It's this sort of thing that I look forward to every year. It's like, you know what it's like in fact? It's like on the silverfish matches where you wait all day to hook a big perch. That's like your surprise when you hook a big perch or a big chub or something like that. By fishing in this way, it's like every single F1 I hook is that big sexy perch or chub or something weird. See, back in my bait again. I was a bit messy at that feed. I should have done better then. But still aggressive, 20 casters, making things happen. Look, whoa, here we go. It's proper a fisher chuck. Like there's no way if I'd have sat there and tapped in 10 micro pellets and been ultra negative that I could generate this sort of response. It doesn't have it because you haven't got that bait falling through the water. You've just got boring almost. You've just got a little diddy trap. That's great, don't get me wrong, if it's rock bottom and you need flipping 10 or 20 pound, that could be the way. Or if it's just little skimmers and an odd F1, maybe that's the way. But if you, nobody likes that. But if you have the option of, say, a venue, which most commercials seem to be, where you have lots and lots of different species that can sort of like change positions in your peg. You can get a gang of roach come in, you can get some perch mopping the bait up. You just need mouths clearing that overspill of bait up. You never want an accumulation of bait. You want every single 20 casters that you feed to have pretty much gone out your peg by the time I go in for the next cast. And as long as I feel my hook bait's getting eaten within 30 seconds, then odds are that's happening. This is ridiculous now. This is like flipping summer. Oh, that was foul up. I don't want to be absolutely crazy because it'll just make a winter video sound ridiculous. But I've seen it before at Lingmere. It's Steve's place that we used to fish a lot during the winter. Oh, nobody likes to catch a leaf either. No matter what, even in the rockest of bottom, freezing cold winter, Monk Hall's another one. I've seen it at Monk Hall as well. That by being aggressive, by having baits like maggots and casters falling through the water so often, even when it is absolutely beyond belief freezing, F1s and bigger fish will still happily feed shallow, which I think could be even the next step today. There's a definitely potential of catching these fish shallow. Maybe not silly 8-10 inch like we do in the summer, but because I'm feeding like this, that'd be my second rig that I have. I'll have my deck rig that I try to use predominantly to keep fish on the bottom because they're just easier and less aggro sort of thing to catch. But even during the absolute rock bottom, freezing cold winter days, see, this one's better, that was on the bottom, lovely that one. I need to play them just a little bit smoother. Yeah, these fish could still potentially go shallow. But today, I think the more sensible thing to do, as opposed to trying to bring them shallow, I think by dictating my feed, and by feeding at different times during the cast, and different amounts of bait, I think that's a better way of concentrating them on the bottom. So I don't want to get off my box and set another shallow rig up. I think there's more chance of hooking weird fish. Because I know there's some funky things in here. There's some barbel and some big perch and some tench and all sorts. And I'm far likely to hook them on the bottom than I am shallow. So what I'll do is feed more, less often this time. This time I'm not going to feed when I first go in. I got a freebie. Oh, he fell off. Freebie perch. I haven't had a freebie perch for a bit. Don't tend to get them on hard pellets. So this time I'm not going to feed until I've hooked my fish. I mean, dead similar to how you sort of fish hard pellets, that sort of mentality. So I'm whizzing out 13 metres. Wait, I'm going to hook one and then I'm going to feed. So going pluggy again. You see I'm throwing the pole about all over the place. Yeah, and having that bit of flex in it, it makes it just better for silverfish. I mean, even more so if I was at a big deep venue. I mean, using a pole with more flex to it than necessarily my MTX5 has, it just makes it lovely for this sort of job. I mean, and no flipping different weight and all that wise. I could close my eyes and I wouldn't know what I was holding. I mean, it feels just as posh as an MTX5 does, but so I've got that durability, and every other day when the wind's here, I don't have to worry about the wind blowing all over the place and smashing me posh pole. So come on, maybe I do need to feed. You know, this hasn't gone this time, but I'm getting little indications there's definitely fish in my peg. But I think it'll take a couple of casts just to get them up to speed where they're sort of used to that bait going in after I've hooked one. If we got one, that's not what we want, but it's a start. So hook it, be nice and quick. My casters have just gone in. And if I can get back on top of them casters within 30 seconds, happy days. The fish will still be there. Hopefully it'll reduce the liners a little bit and it's all good. So I'm whacking, same again, 2 maggots. So maggots is a weird one. I think I'd always go, I don't know if I would always go with maggots on the hook. I think to begin with, I always want double maggot on the hook. Probably because it's the least selective. Yeah, I like that. That must be the reason why. I definitely do it. There's probably no reason whatsoever. I'm talking rubbish. But yeah, I think maggots are probably the least selective to start with. Probably the most visual as well. Probably they do stand out a little bit. But later on, I'd be more than happy to put a caster on as well. So the one thing I do find with casters, probably, in fact, that's why I don't put a caster on as well to begin with. Because when the little fish are in your peg, the casters can be a bit of a pain. You can get shelled a little bit, your bait can get knackered. Whereas maggots just have that little bit more durability to them. When there's lots and lots of fish, I think that's why I'd go maggots over casters most of the time. But it can be surprising later on, just whizzing a caster on, you just catch different fish. But not while they're little into there. Let them clear out. There we go. How much better was that? I mean, that was nice, fed me bait. Let me dawdle a minute, just guide him out my pegs. He's not upsetting anything, he's like a dog on a lead. Another 20. That lovely grouping. I love how them catties keep it so nice, particularly with casters. I don't think it will foul hooked. I think it's just this is how I'd come in if I were a carp. Like, oh, got me again. What's he doing? I think he's foul hooked. No, he's just another lazy F1, isn't he? Come on. They just change winter time, don't they? And they just go a bit dawdly. He might actually be just under the chin, that one. Still. Ticking over. Is that an instant? He's nearly an instant, him, look. Why do they often have that? They often have a little red bit just under the chins. Quite strange. But loving life. Yeah, I never thought it'd be that. What I expected it to be, in all fairness, I thought I'd go on this line and I'd catch a few silvers to begin with. I mean, I knew there'd be fish there present. This lake's absolutely solid. But I thought we'd go on it, catch some silvers, and then I'd have to rotate between this and dobbing until the F1s. There's always a point in the day where the F1s go, oh right, we want to have a feed now. And then they'll move on to me bait. So I didn't expect it to be so quick, but for the sake of filming, it couldn't be any better. Because literally they're on it, and it is absolutely ridiculous. See how within that 3 feeds, I've got it right now. So first one was a little bit scatty, and that's to wait a bit longer for a bite. But then really quickly, things have settled now, and I've just gone 3 for 3 without missing a bite. It's all nice and steady. Everything's gone back on the bottom. I'm not going to say I've not got fish whizzing through the water, but I've not got my rig in the water when that's happening. I mean, while the fish are going crazy for that bait that just goes in, my rig's out the water, I'm putting bait on and getting ready to ship out. By the time I'm out there, everything's on the bottom. The chaos has chilled out a little bit, and I can just go in, be patient, clonk, ease on, beautiful, guide him out my peg, feed me bait. It doesn't get better than that. That's a conveyor belt of fish. I mean, if they're all great big fish, brilliant. If not, I'm not bothered. I just want to get a bite of chuck. Oh, he's pulling a bit. This might be me weird one. This might be me barbel. Don't think it is, but it'd be nice if it was. Excuse me. But if not, I feel it'll be another. Oh, it's a little carps. Oh, I like that. A lovely little carps to end on. That hopefully has shown winter isn't all about being ultra negative, ultra delicate, frightened to death to feed any bait. So on so many occasions, just get catty out, take the risk, and you're going to lead yourself to a much, much nicer day's fishing. So you can go on my keep net, and I'm going to carry on catching a few more, but hopefully you enjoyed that. And as I say, really is a pleasure just to get the catty out, feed some bait. So just because it's winter, don't immediately go into that shutdown mode where you're feeding absolutely nothing. So it's much more enjoyable getting bites. So hopefully you took a little bit from that. So as aside from the feeding, it's not about these posh 7,000 pound poles that you all think that we're using all the time. It's not. I mean, I want to use the right pole for the situation as well. I mean, without going too pluggy, you want a pole that does the perfect job for what you're trying to achieve. So have a look at that. MTX3, as I said, beautiful, beautiful pole within our range. If you're after a mid-range sort of pole, it's probably the one I'd go for. So it's probably the most versatile pole that Matrix do. But yes, aside from that, onto the fishing. I'm going to catch a few more, and I'll see you all next time.